Yep.
What is up, everybody? Happy, what is it now? Wednesday. BobbyFi with my man Eric Sheets Haber. Last night was not as good as the previous nights for me personally, but I did win on FanDuel. I did. It's funny. I ended up in a situation I wanted to talk about really quick because I had 10 lineups in the monster, 10 lineups that were in the monster, a big one on FanDuel. I played 2 lineups, but one of my lineups had 9 other people with the same lineup, including guys from Run Pure Sports, guys from Roto Grinders, guys who I've never heard of. And it was a night where chalk really hit, so it stood out. And I got a number of messages from people saying, what are you guys doing with the same lineups? I didn't listen to one other show yesterday, not to mention, all this stuff. Not that it mattered if I did, because you could still come up with the same conclusion, especially on FanDuel, where they sort of force you into a build on incredibly chalky, heavy slates that are good chalk, which yesterday was on FanDuel. So I wasn't pissed, but I wanted to let people know, like, if you're going to see the same lineups between people, don't assume something as weird is going on. There is nothing going on. Smart people are going to come up with the same conclusions. And yesterday's 7-game slate played like a 2-game slate. And that's what's going to end up happening. So, you can at me all you want, but there is nothing weird going on. And by the way, I didn't plan to, it wasn't like my goal to go into yesterday. I'm going to lose $2,000. So I'm going to try and have the same lineups as everybody else.
It didn't have to go that way. Like Cantor was a very legitimate pivot. You know what I mean? It just happened. It didn't. That chalk just hit. That's the way it goes.
And I don't usually play chalky lineups, but when you go through enough lineups and you start seeing that the best route is a certain route, and also I was off with a couple of the ownership percentages, it's going to happen sometimes. But back to it tonight, Sheets.
The one thing, the one guy who my one bad decision, I think, and you guys saw me do it live, by the way, was it was bad only because he turned out to be so low owned, is when I pivoted off of Tice near the end. I mean, I had like,
that was a great call. My bad.
No, not your bad. What do you mean? I made the decision. So, you know what I mean? Like, you give me your input. I whatever. So I moved from Tice to Nance in like a good amount of my lines, and he ended up really, really low owned, which is a little more surprising to me than I thought it would be.
Tice didn't end up though with a huge, like, it was weird. He had the monstrous half, but I noticed that he didn't play almost at all in the second half.
No.
That was what I was afraid of. They didn't play him down the stretch until the last minute. He came in with a minute and a half to go because I was watching that game.
Right.
And that was what my whole fear was, but I didn't know he was going to absolutely smash in the first half. He went completely nuts in the first quarter. All right. Well, what do you, any overall thoughts about tonight before we get into it? We seem to have a lot of the same sort of nonsense that we had last night. You've got Sadaransky, Kevin Porter. That was maybe my biggest mistake last night, was not sticking with more Sadaransky, because sort of talked myself off of him. There was a lot of, chalk options that for value, and he was not my favorite, but I to play him some. We're gonna have a lot of the same stuff, but do you have any overall thoughts? Anybody you feel like you must have or anything like that before we get into it?
Well, I mean, like, they at least they announced Oladipo like ahead of time, right?
Right. I sort of figured that one.
So we could just go ahead. I mean, well, let me share my screen, and then we could just kind of get moving. Let me just see. Share screen. Let's do this.
All right. Here we go. So we actually have, like, I know on these slates, I'm always a fan of trying to wait as long as possible, but there's a pretty big game right off the bat that's going to be hard to avoid for me.
Well, it's interesting. It feels like it feels similar to not last night, the night before. Remember, like, the night before, where you had this huge total to start off the slate? I think it was Charlotte against somebody, but like all the value was like not in that game or something like that. Right. But let's see. I mean, you have, well, let's talk about it. Do you like this first game?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that you've got legitimately 4 plays on Sacramento's side. Halliburton is probably going to show up as being pretty popular early in the day. My guess is that's going to fade a little bit, because there is a wider range of outcomes with him than people thought. I think he was in an incredibly hot streak shooting from the beginning of the season. He's gotten a little bit cold lately. So look, it's a great matchup. He's too cheap probably for who he is, kind of, but not like by an astronomical amount. So he's on the list. Halliburton's showing up as being the sort of the best value, but The other guys, I think Bjelic is worth a tournament flyer at 3.7. I think Rashawn Holmes is going to absolutely dismantle like this game. Like it's just the rebound and just the putbacks, and they just don't have a body. They keep getting destroyed by big men. And you could see even on 13 shots, Holmes put up 57 in the last game. You know, it's hard not to have some interest there. And then I don't usually love to play Buddy Hield in the mid sixes on a full slate. But if there was a matchup that was made for Buddy Hield, this would be it. And the same is true for De'Aaron Fox. So somewhere between all these guys, I think we're going to want to play one or two of them, at least in some of our lineups. And I'm leaning just when all else fails and I don't feel so strongly about the other guys, even though, like I said, I like the matchup for Fox a lot. I like the matchup for Hield. I think Fox is my main play on that side along with Holmes. It's really hard for me not to have a lot of interest early in the day on them both.
Yeah, I think we might be a little bit different. So for me, my top, I mean, and again, I have so far, like these guys rank below some other guys in other games.
Sure. As does everybody. That's partly why I like Fox.
Okay. No, I even mean the value guys. So let's start with Bjelica. He's probably my favorite, but he's not like, I don't think the value today is that great. Let's just put it that way. We'll see. No, I mean it's gonna look okay. But I don't think it's through the roof like some of these, like it has been. Anyway, I like Bjelica. He's fine. I like. So what do you say about Halliburton?
Yeah, I think Halliburton's going to pop off the page from a projection standpoint. There's absolutely nothing he's done recently that gives it any basis or merit.
Well, he's been out, right?
Well, he's played the last 3 games and done absolutely nothing. And 2 of those, and actually all 3 of those are next to Washington, actually ahead of Washington. Those are the best matchups in basketball that he's not succeeding in. And going back, for a guy who's going to be chalky, he's never, in my opinion, he's almost never a good play in some sense because he is extremely highly volatile. He is not consistent with his production. And even though it's a great matchup, this is De'Aaron Fox's team. And that's what I've noticed the most. Like even in the games he's played or whatever, De'Aaron Fox is completely trying to take over and he's playing 1,000,000 minutes. And I feel better about, I would rather have De'Aaron Fox's 58 to 60 than I would Tyrese Halliburton's a lot of the time 20 to 40, 20 to 35. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah. I guess I got to look a little bit more later, like, because right now they look just okay. Like you said, like Fox looks just okay for me. I'm
confused a little bit why people are off of him. Like I know that Halliburton was out, so that bumped him a little bit, but he put up 56, 51, and 45 again, and this is the premium matchup for Fox. His last time he scored, he only had 1 game less than 45, and that was like a really, really, really he shot the ball terribly.
This does seem like the perfect game for Fox, right?
Yeah, I can't see. I don't know. I just don't see how he's not getting around 50 tonight if the game is reasonably close, and I think that 60 is really in the cards. We'll talk about the other guys later because there are some great plays on the slate, so it's tough. But this is a great game. I mean, and then on the other side, you have 2 really good running backs. I'd probably lean Beal because of the pricing tonight, but I don't think I have no problem with going right back to Westbrook here too. It's just a premium matchup. It's Sacramento and Washington. These are, other than you got Sacramento, Washington, Houston, Charlotte. Those teams are teams we want to attack as much as we possibly can, and they're playing each other. That means this game should just be lightning quick. So I really like all those guys. And then I like the value with a little bit of Bjelica and a little bit of Avdia on the other side, potentially even some Bertans. I really think there's some plays in this game.
Well, so I lost a decent amount of money being stubborn last time Washington played by playing Alex Len. You want to, is he just one of those guys that's always going to look like a good value? But
I said it on our show. I said it on our show, and then I stupidly didn't listen to myself in one of my big lineups, which he really crushed that big lineup. It was so predictable what had happened. It was a back-to-back. They were playing Milwaukee on a back-to-back after Robin Lopez had just gone up against Embiid the night before, or not Embiid. He'd gone up against Philly the night before. Oh yeah, it was Embiid then. And then Of course, Rob. Of course, he doesn't get the full run the next game against Milwaukee. And I said it a million times on both of our shows, and yet I still played some Alex Len. It was so dumb. It was just so dumb to play him. But that slate had a lot of really, really clean, easy value. That was when Houston guys were in the 3Ks.
Okay.
And, Alex Len, like the minutes just are completely – look, he can always go off. That's the one thing he actually can put up fantasy points. And you might see some different things from Washington. They keep trying different lineups out. So I would put him as a high variance tournament flyer, like at best. But he definitely has an upside.
Okay. Yeah, maybe I'll like this game a little bit more. I mean, because I think it's one of those games where I think you're supposed to like this game, right?
It probably is it the highest total on the slate? I would imagine it would be.
It has to be, right? I mean, like, what else could it be?
Yeah.
Well, I have a question. Is Hassan Whiteside I have projected as in?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Is that a bad play?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, look, it's Hassan Whiteside, right? So it's a bad play 90+% of the time, and it's in the worst kind of a matchup for him. Now, it's a great matchup for big men, but it's a terrible matchup in the sense that he does not play well in these high-paced games. He had the one monstrous game against Brooklyn, who does play fast-paced. That was the only real exception. And the truth is, Hassan Whiteside at this price, I think has had 3 games this whole season that you'd accept on this slate.
That's fair enough. Okay.
But can I ever say he's a bad play? I don't think so. You know what I mean?
You want to move on to Toronto, Detroit?
Yeah, I just want to reinforce that don't skimp on these other pieces from Washington.
Like Avdia and
Avdia and Bertans can shoot themselves into a monster night in this spot.
Okay.
Now we can move on. Sorry. What are your thoughts about the Detroit side, the Toronto side of this?
First look, I don't like anything.
Yep.
I like Terrence Davis if he plays. It's literally, and barely. I mean, I just don't. Is this slate like really bad? Like, can I find nothing this whole slate? What's going on here?
Yeah, it's only a couple games in. We'll get to some good plays that you'll like.
No, I got you, but like I'm looking at the way these guys are rated. Again, just the way I kind of rate things. I mean, it usually just like guys just pop off as just better plays in general. So for me, what I'm looking at, I'm announcing this as a low scoring slate. So we'll see what happens. But Terrence Davis 3,600 maybe. But I didn't get to anything from this game. What do you think? You like anything?
Kind of think that Siakam is interesting coming back. Like, it was protocols. Obviously, we don't know exactly what the deal is with him, is health wise. But he's 7,300. It's a good matchup. That's the only place I'm looking. I don't think there's anything else we need to do in this game unless Siakam is out.
Okay, so I'm not hallucinating. Okay,
No.
A whole bunch of plays that I just am missing or something. Okay.
No, I do like Delon Wright against his former team on the other side. It always sucks when you get rid of a guy and then you go win a title. Also on top of it, he's been pretty, his production has been solid at 5,800 since he's got his, come back from his injury. The minutes are solid again. The matchup is good. So I like Delon Wright. I actually think he's a guy you could consider using in all formats on this slate. And I think some people would be interested in Plumlee. It's just not what I'm going to end up doing on this slate.
Okay.
The Jeremy Grant, I think I'm just done for a little bit with Jeremy Grant because he does all the other ones. It's just getting too frustrating, and I don't know. I'm a little bit out on him right now. So Brooklyn and Indy, what are we going to do on the Brooklyn side? Or I guess is it? I feel like it's a which one are we playing, which is the answer is basically always Harden. So, look, Kyrie's going to be unowned again. That's all I'm going to say on the Brooklyn side. And I'm definitely going to have some shares of that. I also mentioned and then didn't follow through with my Jeff Green play the other day, which actually may have worked out well because Horton Tucker was better. And I think I would have actually ended up getting a little more of him than Horton Tucker. But Green and Claxton, along with the obvious too. But I think that I would rate Green ahead of Claxton, and I would rate Kyrie as a tournament play ahead of Harden. But Harden is just like, I don't know how he's the obvious play. He's like, I think he'd be the cash game play on this slate if you can find a way to get him and Giannis in.
So you said you like Claxton?
He's fine. I mean, I don't love him. I prefer Jeff Green as value.
Do you prefer Claxton to JaVale McGee?
Always.
You prefer Claxton to Drew Eubanks?
No, probably not. I think Eubanks has more minutes upside, so I don't know. I don't think I would go that way. They really won't. The problem with playing Claxton on a big slate is like they're not going to give him minutes. Like the minutes aren't going to change. But we've seen bigs have success against Indy. Maybe you could argue he gets an extra 1 or 2 minutes because they play two bigs, but I just think with Eubanks, while they might play the same number of minutes, Eubanks could end up playing 26 minutes. That's not going to happen for Claxton without something really strange happening.
I have Harden as the best spend by not that much, but I do have him as the best. I have him a little bit better than Giannis and a little bit better than Jokic, and significantly better than Luka for some reason. But that's where I am. So yeah, I like Harden. What about Indiana? Indiana, they did it again. I mean, like at least FanDuel and DraftKings should at least get together on this Karis LeVert thing.
I think it's bad. I don't think they should. I think that I like what they're doing because I don't like what FanDuel is doing, but I mean, all DraftKings is doing is pricing him accurately. I feel like.
What he's 70? What is he? 7,200 over there?
68.
It's a little much, isn't it?
Not even close.
No, I guess not.
It could easily be 8K and it wouldn't faze me one bit. And by the way, I like him on both sides.
Well, on FanDuel, it's kind of a joke.
Yeah.
Let me see what it looks like on DraftKings for me. I mean,
it's just projections. I don't buy anything with those, so it doesn't mean. I mean, with these.
No, I'm just looking though. Yeah, he's fine. I mean, is he going to be he's going to be starting again?
Oh yeah, I don't think
that's going to be his deal. Okay, I'm just making sure.
Yeah, he's their guy. I mean, that they have to treat him like their guy. They gave up something for him, and we should be looking at it. You know, we might not be that far away from a time where we're looking at him and Brogdon as sort of the same plays around 8K. You know, they're both too cheap.
Oh, I will tell you, yeah, that Brogdon at 7,200 is very tempting to say the least.
Point out Brogdon's ownership on the last 3 slates at cheaper prices than this even, or 7,400, I guess he was last time. But he had the 6,700 on FanDuel. He was 5% owned on FanDuel.
I know, that was ridiculous.
And he was 3% owned on DraftKings. So these early projections that always have him owned, don't buy it. And this is a great matchup for everybody on this side. I think this is a great game to stack if you want to go that route. I think you can, Sabonis. It's a great matchup for Miles Turner. Brogdon. I think that I would rank them Brogdon, Sabonis, close. Brogdon, Sabonis, Turner, and then LeVert. But I do like the LeVert versus his former team. They didn't, whatever. If he gets it going, I could see that happening. On the flip side, I could actually see it going that way with Kyrie, where he takes it a little bit personally too. Like, I don't know, like I don't know. I'm always looking for things with Kyrie. Maybe that's
his former team who almost killed him.
Yeah.
Right?
There's a real narrative. Yeah. If you almost kill someone.
Let's call it what it is. I mean, for those of you who don't remember, I mean, he had this kidney thing that despite having like some of the best doctors in the world went just completely undetected for God knows how long.
Right.
And only because they were trying to ship him out did they, for some reason, did they even think to do the physical to find it?
Yeah.
Freaking crazy. Who do you like more? I don't know if you like to do it this way, but who do you like more? Brogdon at 7,200 or Kevin Porter at 6,800?
Kevin Porter.
Okay. Who do you like more? I'll give you just one more. 7,200 Brogdon or 7,500 DeJounte Murray?
Probably lean Brogdon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, you ready? Is there anybody specific? Like, I actually think like this is a weird situation where Sabonis. This is what I mean. Like these 9K guys, maybe we can just get away with playing them. Like, because Sabonis could easily put up 60 here. This is a perfect matchup for him. He's going to destroy the inside of this team. you know, maybe skipping some of the all spend ups like Harden and Giannis, who are both great plays. Maybe it's not the worst slate to do that.
Yeah, especially considering, again, I don't think this value is particularly enthralling.
Yeah, my guess is that'll probably change by the end of the day. But
well, I mean, if this is the value we're getting, is what I'm saying.
Right.
But then again, I mean, like Satoransky's pretty strong.
Yep. Well, there's plenty of ways he 5Xs. I mean, look, after the first quarter,
well, that's certainly true.
He had like 9 fantasy points after the first quarter.
Is that right?
Something like that. This is not a guy who's productive like all the time. It's not like he's a lock or anything.
You want to?
I like Middleton too, by the way. I mean, look, you're not going to probably get to him on DraftKings, but I think he's completely in play at his price. And Middleton. I didn't even know we were out on game yet. I was talking about Giannis.
We just got there. Okay.
Oh, so yeah,
that's
like
really weird. Okay. I was still talking about Harden and whatever. I didn't even know he moved on. I didn't even know he moved on. He said a warp there. Okay. So we like Giannis. Okay, fair enough. And you like Middleton.
Yeah, I like Giannis and I like Middleton.
I got to rewind this. My wife must be right. I must really not listen sometimes. I'm literally, when you say I like Middleton too, I'm like, in addition to who?
Oh, because
I just said, aren't we talking about Giannis? I'm like, it's possible. It's possible.
Let's blame it on the vaccine shots.
I guess.
No, I talked about.
You know what? If I say that to my wife, she'll say, "What about the last 24 years?" So, so if I forgot to say it, I like Giannis.
Yeah, Giannis makes a lot of sense today. I think that's a good call.
I'm gonna rewind this. And anybody else? Did we talk about Philly yet? We didn't do that, right?
No. We hadn't gotten there.
Oh, thank God. So you didn't talk about how you're locking in Tobias Harris at 8,400, right?
No, but Ben Simmons, I am just absolutely going to go right back.
We'll go right back. All right.
The biggest mistake people make is they're so. And by the way, those of you who write in the chat, you're welcome to. Some of the people in our Discord, I am a little surprised at people who just literally post everything about their own lineups for like 1,000 times, and then just like, oh well, this guy Ben Simmons isn't doing this for me, and I'm like, you guys, the games are 4 quarters long, okay? And by the way, as much as everybody wants to complain about Ben Simmons, he was on all the winning lineups on FanDuel last night on the big buy-ins. So I have no idea why you're going to say that Ben Simmons.
So listen, I'm really. It's taken me a while, but haven't completely finalized it yet, but I'm almost close to really figuring out the psychology of sweating and whining with respect to DraftKings. I don't mean whining actually in a bad way, like to the complaining and stuff. So the way I look at, I don't spend too much time on this, but the way I look at, again, like analyzing results is literally you take a snapshot as the game's lock, right? And that given what you've done, and then you look at the ownerships, right? You could tell at that particular moment whether you made a good play or not. You know what I mean? And then if you want, like, I don't want to see you complain, but I went back and forth in this. Like, let's say some guy gets that you locked in, just like gets injured in like 2 seconds. Okay. You could say, oh, damn it, I'm upset about that. And that's variance. Okay. That's total variance. And I guess someone would really want to be a dick and say, well, you got to factor that in when you make these plays that these guys might get injured. Okay. I'll give you a break that you don't have to do that. You can get a little annoyed at that. But like you take a thing like what happened to me last week with the Harris English, I had like 1,000,000,000% of him. And when they flashed, like, the game's locked, he was 3% owned and he was my favorite play, in part because he was going to be, I thought, 10% owned. I'm like, that's it. I mean, I just cashed sort of in my head. And the fact that he got ruled out, yeah, I mean, I'm pissed, right? But for the purpose of either criticizing my own play or analyzing your play, you really just can't look at results as a way to assess the way you made plays. It's like where I screwed up yesterday, for example, and we talked about this when we were doing the live thing. I had too much like negatively correlated stuff from that Oklahoma City game. Like I had like too many lineups, I think, with all of the Roby, Pukashevsky, and Moses Brown in it. Okay. Like I thought all 3 of those are probably really good plays, but I think that putting all 3 of them together was just bad. You know what I mean? I just do.
Yeah.
And you can say, well, maybe you can, I do. I think it was bad. So that's the way I assess my play. When I see that, I'm like, this was bad. And if it turns out they went to triple overtime and they all got there and they all happened to close, I then can't go back and say, oh, no, it was a great play because of blah, 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 blah. It's really important to figure out a good way to assess your play, whether it be in the stock market, whether it be in sports betting, whether it be in whatever. And to go in, but however, if you want to go to Discord and whine and say, I can't believe Simmons is screwing up, I think that's fine. You know, I think that's part
totally fine.
it's part of rooting. You know, it's part of rooting for your shit, you know?
Yeah, but the Simmons, everybody said something sucks. I'm a little different. I find it as a sort of a repelling personality trait. So and so sucks because he has whatever at halftime. Like I just think that it's a if you play DFS all the time, and a lot of these guys do, you can go ahead and post it. I'm never going to respond to it because and then also I don't like the little subtle digs of blaming someone for getting a call wrong that hasn't even been wrong yet, and then you get credit when it's right.
I never respond to it.
Yeah.
But Bobby, even you sometimes like get in that kind of thing. Like it started like when we first started with this, when you know I play a guy and you knew that at the beginning I was kind of relying on you to like kind of point me in the right direction with like a lot of my plays, right? And if he happened to have just not had a good game, you'd be, oh dude, sorry about Ben Simmons. But dude, it's like you played. I mean, like don't apologize for Ben Simmons. Don't apologize for anything. You know, like you make your play.
No, fair enough.
And you just kind of you live with it. You know what I mean? So for someone to say like, you know what they should say, like it's their decision. So if Bobby says I'm playing Ben Simmons and you, for example, play Ben Simmons in a lineup that has 4 other Sixers guys that are directly negatively correlated with him, you can't get mad at anybody for Ben Simmons. Right? So yeah, it's certainly a bad look to whine about much of anything, but I kind of like the rooting. Oh, I can't believe this. But when you dig into somebody else for a call, and that's a little.
Yeah, that's the only time. I was more just like thinking.
It doesn't bother me, like whatever. But when people say that about me,
I'm in a little bit of a bad mood this morning, so I should just give that away, and I'll stop complaining. I did want to mention really quickly. I think these were all good points, but I want to mention I kind of do like Tobias Harris rarely tonight. I prefer Simmons. Again, there's a lot of good plays, and I'll sort of filter them out in at the end.
Dude, you better be right, because if he doesn't score, it's going to be your fault, and I'm going to blame you for it.
Anyway,
just if I'm going to keep it real, by the way, I don't see it with Simmons. So I think one of us is going to be like I'm going to find the 400 for Beal, I think. And again, different positions. Fair enough. But yeah, you know what you have going for. Well, I was going to say what you have going for. You didn't have a great game yesterday, but he did well enough that he made everybody money. So
on FanDuel, yeah, he did.
Yeah.
But I mean, the thing is, like, it's just, you know, there's a lot of different ways the games could play. I mean, first of all, he didn't play as many minutes, but that's partly because it was the front end of a back-to-back. And I just think there's some variance in there, you know. And I mean, he didn't have any steals and blocks, and that's what he does that quite a bit of that in general. And it's not that it's an awesome matchup with Milwaukee, but the tempo of the game and the low ownership is really hard to ignore. I mean, what is he averaging this year without Embiid? 55 or something, or 50? I mean, like, if it was any other, if he puts up 50 last night, he's like, I mean, he's so popular on this slate. And because he puts up 42, he's not. That just seems stupid to me.
No, guys, I hate to do this to you guys because it's going to be a gazillion game slate. We're probably going to go too long on this, and we're going to go long on golf too.
Big games, though. These are big, you know, important.
No, I don't mean that because I want to stray like for another 2 minutes. So I mean, going back to the psychology for just a minute. So you guys may or may not know. I mean, I'm a pretty successful hedge fund manager over the last like 20 years, right? And what my gut check at literally the beginning of every trading day, but not even trading day, even like days where they're not trading, but I'm always like on top of my portfolios for people, is I always look up at my board and then look up at the portfolio, and I say, if I were starting a brand new portfolio today and had the pick of the litter, anything I could buy, anything I could sell, would this be the portfolio that I would buy? Exactly. And if the answer is no, then I have to change something. Because what's the difference? You know what I mean? Like what I did in the past, whatever. This is, and if it's not perfect, I need to change it now. I can't change what happens on, throughout the whatever, like every 5 seconds. And I think that when you're doing DraftKings lineups, again, it's hard because you're at the end, you're crunching, you're at the end, and eventually like lock happens. But you have to, at some point, like make peace with what you've done. You know what I mean? And say, okay, this is what I would like. And if this is not what I want, I really just should change something. And if I don't change it, I'm not allowed then, like 10 minutes later, to say, oh, I should have changed it. Because you had the chance to change it. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Look, anything that can help you guys, I think I'm going to just spew out this.
Yeah, go ahead. I think it's helpful, Sheets. I appreciate it, at least.
All right. So I like all that. Another way of saying is I like Giannis. I don't think I like anybody else in this game.
All right. Let's move over to Boston and Cleveland.
All right. So Boston and Cleveland, do we want to, and this is the kind of sucker plays or whatever, do we want to run back JaVale McGee? Do we want to run back Daniel Tice? Or do we want to give Jalen Brown another shot? Or do we want to give Larry Nance another shot? Like those are the four guys that kind of just, I don't know, tickled my fancy, but those are the two guys that I was interested in talking about. The other guy I was interested in talking about, again, I don't know how many games they've played against this team yet or what the story is. And I think he was out yesterday, but if they run Tristan Thompson out there against his old team, that might be fun. I don't know what the story is with him. Like if Tice for whatever on a back-to-back.
I don't think he'll play tonight. He never plays.
Oh, that's what I was asking.
Yeah,
okay.
I would imagine he doesn't, which makes Tice like one of the better values.
Now, why was he not going to? Was he that injured? Is that the story?
No, Thompson. He doesn't usually play back-to-backs. I don't know what happened.
No, because he didn't play yesterday. Is what I'm saying. I don't think
he did. Did he not? I don't have that at all.
No, that's one of the reasons why I thought Tice was a great play.
No, he was playing. I mean, no, I don't think so, Sheets, because I went through the big men with you. Okay. I'm pretty sure that Tristan Thompson played. Let me just make sure.
No, he was out. That's what it says right here. Thompson will not play in Tuesday's game against the Jazz. This was from yesterday.
Wait, what do you have a timestamp on that thing?
Yeah, that was 4:30 p.m. from yesterday.
Maybe I must have. Wow. Okay, that's weird. I totally biffed that one out. I really messed that up. So that actually means he may play today, but
Well, I don't know. I don't know what he was out for. Is a contact?
I still have him as questionable, but I didn't realize that. That's so strange.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the COVID protocols thing. Yeah, that's right. He had talked to someone. He had talked to somebody. Now I remember hearing something last night, but I didn't factor much in. Either way, Tice would be the better play. Tristan Thompson doesn't really do anything. But he'll be on the court. But with all three big men, you're not going to want to play Tristan Thompson, I don't think. And that's what my thinking was with Tice. I didn't realize they weren't going to be doing that. So Tice right now, assuming Thompson's out, I think you give the boost to here at 4,100 for sure. And we have also no Kemba. So everybody's in play. Jalen Brown will be really popular. I like him. Jason Tatum will be much less popular. So I think he's interesting. I would probably prefer Brown, and I think it's probably going to end up just being Brown and Tice for me here. Marcus Smart, I don't know how many minutes they're going to end up giving him on the back-to-back because of coming back from the injury. He did only play 24 minutes last night against Utah. So maybe that is a way of we can assume Marcus Smart's going to get 30 back to his 30s range. And then if they started Pritchard or Teague, I would probably consider in some long shot GPPs, but that's my main interest in this game.
Would you run back Nance or McGee?
I love Nance. I thought Nance was a tremendous play last night. I thought he was the perfect epitome of what makes a great tournament play. You have a guy who's back in the fold who no one is going to – I don't know entirely why. I understand that people want to play Poku and stuff and sort of fit like that. But Nance still played – he had small forward eligibility too. Like you could have done enough to get him in your lineups, and I thought he was a really strong play. I'm guessing he gets much more ownership tonight because people saw the 34 from last night. I'm a little worried coming off the injury and him playing 38 minutes, but 4,700 is 4,700. So,
well, we got to make sure that Love is out, right?
Yeah, if Love is out, even if Love's in, it's still 4,700. It's just as long as Nance plays. He's not a 4,700 player. He's not even close. And now he's back to his minutes again. And JaVale McGee is probably a little worse than usual tonight because, it's back to back, and he played his season high minutes yesterday. And people are going to chase, and he's going to be popular. So all of those things, probably you don't want to be playing JaVale McGee, I think, if you're a smart tournament player.
Sounds good to me. I don't need to play.
The only way we could change it is if you're trying to cram in value and get all the studs up, but I'm not going to do it as of right now.
All right, Golden State, Houston.
Yep.
Guy that stands out, first of all, on the Golden State side is actually guy that you were suspicious about. So we gotta see what's going on with him is Wiseman. What did he do last night? He did get 28 minutes last night.
So I found out that whole thing. The reason why that happened was the team was punishing him, which they didn't announce publicly because that's what they do with their players there. They were punishing him for missing 2 COVID testing times, which is actually a pretty big deal. I'm surprised they let him play at all. They brought him in, I guess, in the 4th. But that was the thing with Wiseman. So I actually think Wiseman now back to minutes is becoming more playable, especially, he's 3,800 on FanDuel. I think he's actually a strong play over there today.
So I like Wiseman on the Golden State side, and then on the Houston side, I like 1, 2, 3, 4 guys. So I'll just kind of list them. I like Oladipo. They announced wasn't playing, so I like Sterling Brown. I like Kevin Porter Jr. And don't worry, I'm abiding by DraftKings. I'm not going to fill the whole thing in. I like this Deshaun Tate, and the 4th guy is the KJ Martin.
Just FYI, Christian Wood should be back tonight.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and Daniel House could be as well, and McLemore could be as well.
Well, so then we have to.
So as of right now, I still think, even with all those guys, I still think you're playing Kevin Porter. The guy is good. He is the best ball handler they have on the roster, probably.
Well, that's for sure.
He and Sterling Brown, which is weird as it sounds. So Porter and Brown are my main interest. I love Deshaun Tate again as a tournament play. I couldn't believe, everybody's playing all these guys from Houston yesterday. Deshaun Tate went off, and I had him 30.
Really, after all that? That's annoying.
No, it's not annoying. It's predictable. It pisses me out.
It's annoying to me that I didn't play him.
I'm annoyed at other people.
I was only talking about him like the whole freaking day.
Yeah, he was awesome. He put up 46.5.
No, I had to go and play freaking Roby alongside of most.
I know that was a little bit. I made that mistake too, obviously, but I do think Deshaun Tate is in play. That it seems to be the guy they're giving the run to. We have to see about Housewood and McLemore. Otherwise, it might just be a completely stack them up, play 4 of them in a lineup. It really might be that bad. And again, they're 11.5 point underdogs only. I say bet on Golden State to cover here. Should the game stay remotely close and you want to run it back, I think Steph Curry and Wiseman make the most sense to me.
You like Christian Wood if he plays?
No, he's not going to play enough minutes for sure.
Oh, I didn't know that.
They'll baby him like crazy. I can't imagine he'll play more than 24 minutes. Probably for a while. I just don't see any reason. They have nothing to win for. They're the worst team in the NBA by a long shot. They have no reason. They have no interest in winning. So yeah, I have no interest for me.
All right. So this next game is where I ask for trouble. Okay.
Yep.
Because I just know that you're just not supposed to take such a big part of any game with where Popovich is involved. Right. It just, whether it be on either side of the ball. So what I'm gonna throw in there is gonna look a little bit kind of silly, but Satoransky looks like a good play. Zach LaVine this is disrespectful. I'm sorry. I think 8,800 is disrespectful. I just do. And then there's San Antonio. Well, it's talking about Chicago. Maybe we'll get to that. Oh, Markkanen. Markkanen if you want. Let me just throw him in. Again, I won't fill it out. Too many people. And then San Antonio, the guy that I mentioned before. By the way, Podol's freaking smashed the crap out of it, but Eubanks is really, really cheap, and DeJounte Murray in this matchup looks really good. So it seems to me like all these guys look like good plays. You're supposed to play them, and yet it just scares the crap out of me.
Yeah, I'm fine with not playing DeJounte Murray. I mean, he's had one game when he barely got there, 42
Right.
in the last game, since Derek White's come back, that we would even tolerate. Derek White would be, I think playing San Antonio guys is fishy, personally.
It is, right?
Somebody's probably going to get there. Eubanks would be my biggest interest, but the problem is
He could play 4 minutes, right?
Yeah, but I think that they're starting to give him the consistent run. I think he's going to get the 20 minutes with Aldridge out, and against Chicago, that should be good enough. You know what I mean?
Could be, right?
And he can play him alongside Podol, so it's not like you have to just count their 2 minutes together. Although mostly it's going to be 1 versus 1. Podol's minutes have been cut down too since LMA left.
Yep.
So they are definitely trying to get him in there a little bit.
Yep.
Keldon Johnson is the one who I have the most interest in. And after that, like Keldon Johnson, Derek White again, but it's not like these guys at the same prices what were they on Sheets the other night? They were like 30-40%, and now they're going to be 0% owned, and they're just in a better matchup. Now they didn't explode and hit the other night, but I just thought it's kind of funny looking at it that way. But these minutes are being chopped up. They're trying to win games. They're doing all kinds of different things. So I don't want to get too involved in the San Antonio side, but I will have a shot or two on Keldon Johnson and maybe Derek White and some large field stuff. And I agree that Levine's price is cheap. I don't like playing guys on the second of a back-to-back when everybody's healthy, who are jump shooters especially. Levine was absolutely out of this world outstanding last night. Like, he was 15 for 20 from the floor, 7 for 12 from 3. Those were all of his 5 misses. He put up 53 fantasy points, and he did it in 30 minutes. I mean, talk about efficiency. The guy was
40 actual points.
The guy was just the absolute 40 actual points in 30 minutes. I mean, they had to stop because they were blowing him out too much. So he probably still got some left in the tank. You know what I mean? And in San Antonio, we've definitely exploited because of, their defense surprisingly hasn't actually been very good this year. So Levine and Satoransky on that side. I'm curious to see how many minutes they play Markkanen coming off the injury on the back-to-back. The last time out, they actually played him more minutes on the back-to-back. So maybe you could even include Markkanen in the guys you're considering from this game, but mostly it'll be Satoransky and Levine for me.
You want to move on?
Sure. You want to start off with Memphis?
I have.
Or Miami, sorry.
So I'll just give you a visual. So I have like 100 and how many players do I have ranked here? I have like 100, like maybe 200 players, whatever, on the slate. My screen shows like top 36 players rated by different metrics, and I can't find a single person from either side on my board. So I'm gonna just kind of let you talk about this game.
I mean, yeah, it's probably not the right slate to play any of these guys. Tyler Hero is too cheap for most slates. I don't know what they do with Bam on a back-to-back. If he's out, I don't mind going right back to Butler, who also was good again last night with 53. But you're probably going to need more from that. You're probably going to need more results for a guy in the 9Ks, high 9Ks tonight. You're going to want, somewhere in the 60 range, probably at 9,700, because you're going to need a lot of points to win. I'll just mention, as I always do, that Ja Morant has plenty of upside to be viable. He's really struggled lately. Valanciunas, lousy matchup. So I agree. It's probably a game we don't really need to talk about too much. I think it's pretty much a cross-up at this moment.
Okay. Okay, so Charlotte against Denver, right?
Yeah.
So I mentioned this kind of earlier is I do think that Jokic is, very, very legitimate spend up right alongside of Harden and Giannis. You can have me, you could split hairs with me if you want. I can't separate them all that much. And again, likewise, I'm just trying to find pockets of value or anywhere, and I just don't see it in this game. I mean, is anybody cheap? Anybody worth playing?
PJ Dozier is going to play minutes. Not the most exciting guy. Campazzo, another one, not the most exciting guy. I do think there's
I mean, Barton's
Will
fine.
Barton is really cheap, and he's going to be really popular. It's so weird because, you play these guys at the other night and you're thrilled about it, getting him at 3% ownership or whatever he was. And now he's going to be, 1,000,000% owned. He's more expensive, but whatever. I still like Barton and Jokic a ton in this matchup. And Jamal Murray also probably has a monster ceiling game, as does Michael Porter Jr., but you can't play everybody on this slate. So I will stick my ownership probably to Jokic and Barton. I may end up taking a shot with Jamal Murray because I feel like it's that, it's been a little quiet for a little while. We haven't had that Jamal Murray 55 fantasy point game or whatever. And maybe this is the spot where we get it. It's a great matchup for it. That's partly why I think that. I mean, he also takes these point guard matchups really seriously. Like playing against a guy like LaMelo, you're going to get the best sometimes from these other guys because nobody wants to have this young guy being hyped up as being the next greatest thing and all that stuff. And what about me kind of a stuff. I mean, like it really does make a difference in these games. And by the way, too, speaking of these young guys playing against each other, you probably should have given me a heads up that Moses Brown is the greatest center in history. Like I thought there was ways of fading him yesterday. Jesus, what was I thinking? I didn't realize he was going to put up 1,000,000 fantasy point sheets. You didn't tell me he was the best.
Nah, I told you he does exactly the same thing he does in high school. He just goes to the rim, he dunks the ball, gets rebounds, and makes free throws, and does what the coach says. And that, you know what that does? That smashes at 3,200 starting.
Well, first he would have smashed at 8,200. I mean, he was
right.
Anyway.
Yeah.
But anyway, I look, if you're playing a ton of lineups, the only guy I would have from Charlotte.
Excuse me, by the way, you had a chance to see him. He was in UCLA for like six weeks, right?
Yeah, I mean, I just really didn't. I don't think I watched him play one time there, to be honest. And that was probably right at the end of when I stopped watching college basketball, I guess, or the last couple of years. So, but yeah, on the other side, I do think Gordon Hayward is an interesting play. I don't know how much of him I'm really going to get, but they really do everybody talks about LaMelo, and for good reason. He's great, he's going to be great and all these things. In the fourth quarter, when things matter, it's Gordon Hayward's team and Terry Rozier's. And Gordon Hayward, plenty of times this year, has been at the 45 plus rate. I mean, 2 times the last 4 games, 49-51. This is another, pretty solid matchup. I'm not going to probably end up getting into it because there's so many good plays. And again, I'll highlight them at the end because there's so many we've talked about. But I do think he belongs at least on your initial list. And if you want to run it back, somebody with Jokic and Barton. And by the way, yes, even on this giant slate, I think you can play Jokic and Barton together. That's where I'm at. Clippers in Dallas, the unowned game that might end up winning all the money.
Yeah, well, is this going to be unowned, really?
It's kind of got to be, right? Look at all the other plays we have on this slate. Who's going to play anybody from this game? Anybody. I mean, it'll be you'll get a 5% Paul George, maybe a 7% Kawhi, maybe like a 5% Luka. I can get on board with all that.
You sure you don't get like a 55% Paul George?
Why would you get 55% Paul George?
No, I'm just asking.
Yeah. I don't know. The guy hasn't scored since the All-Star break, hasn't had one game that would have been even acceptable.
Well, you know what? It's gonna be this one.
Well, that's fine, and we can take him there, but there's no reason to think that the rest of the world is going to play Paul George when we just saw this matchup and he put up 28 fantasy points and Kawhi put up 50.
Now, in fairness, also, yeah, I mean, Kawhi, we did just see this, and you know what, you're right. I had a really, really super low owned little mini thing with Luka and Kawhi on FanDuel for this.
Yeah,
and it took the second half for them to get there. But you know what's really weird? Not really weird. Luka, he's starting to really just get like a really, really good fantasy floor for me. And the reason why, he's really getting a lot of runs against the scrubs. I mean, he really is. They're really screwing around. He's getting a lot of second unit, not only a second unit run, but they're putting him in against second units of other squads. In like, you know how they do that sometimes.
How they stagger, yeah.
So he, so I'll throw one. I mean, I don't know if maybe I will do Kawhi again on DraftKings. I mean, if Levine is disrespectful 8,800, I mean,
yeah.
Kawhi and Paul George are both equally disrespectful, I think. I don't know. These are all good players.
What about Luka? I mean, Luka put up 68.5 versus these guys. We also have Markieff Morris, and we don't know about Ibaka yet. Okay, right? So that's a big piece of information. And yes, I know Marcus Morris won't be the 30% owned because he jumped from 3,900 to 4,100, but he just put up 30 fantasy points in this spot, and he's 4,100. We're looking for value. Let's play Marcus Morris. Maybe you play Marcus Morris and one of the other two, and then you run it back with Luka, and you're in business. I really like that, actually.
Right.
But again, I named a million great plays today. So today is going to be the day where everybody's going, how did you get this guy at this ownership? How did you do this? And it probably is a day, even though we don't have the value yet, my bet is we will. I'm not 100% sure. I don't really know why I knocked on wood. I don't need the value. But if we get value on this slate that makes some sense, you are going to see the 400s take it down tonight, unfortunately. Sheets, sorry. So you're going to have to get 400 for me tonight to win it.
This is what we're going to do then. So I'm going to say we're betting 50 cents.
Okay.
I'm going to say will you go over 379?
Okay, I'll do it. But you know what's crazy is at some point I should probably collect. I probably owe you like $500 from these $1 bets.
Right.
You always win these ones. Like, it's the craziest thing.
So you think it's over 379?
I do.
We're talking about the lottery, like the biggest one there is.
Yeah. Whatever the $15 is or whatever.
So I'll say under 379. So we'll aim for another 50.
Okay. All right. That's fair enough. This is because I think it's going to be so high, just to give everybody an idea. It's why I'm not as high on guys like JaVale McGee, and I even like Eubanks, but it's why, even though they project well, because I think that we're either going to end up with better value, or you've got a bunch of plays in the like 7 to 9,800 range that could all just put up like 7 to 8x and get you just a monster score. So there's a bunch of different ways that could go.
Like when De'Aaron Fox scores like 70 fantasy points against Washington, for example.
That's well within the realm of possibility. Some of these other guys too. I mean, we mentioned, the Levines at 88 and the Kawhis and the Paul George at 7,900, and Porter could put up another 50 for Houston. There's just a lot of things out there. And if Houston ends up with only 7 or 8 players again, or whatever it's going to be of guys playing, I think we're going to have to go back to it, but I don't think we'll necessarily, because the slate's so huge, maybe we don't need to play more than like 2 or 3 of them at the current prices, because at least they've got priced up a little bit. But right now, I mean, just a real quick, before we get into I know we have to do FanDuel. I know we're taking up some time, but I wanted to say this to the guys who I had circled from this whole thing. One of the Boston 3, I guess you'd call it, between Smart, Brown, and Tatum, I think are solid. I like Fox, Holmes, Beal, Delon Wright, Kevin Porter Jr., Satoransky, Ben Simmons, again, another guy who I think has 70 fantasy point ups. I mean, he does. He's already done it twice this year without Embiid in 7 games, I believe. Or no, one of them was 60 something. But the other one was 7. I think it might have been 80 even. There's a lot of guys with huge upside. Giannis, Harden. Those are mostly my favorite plays, and then Wiseman over on FanDuel, I think, is a tremendous play at 3,800. I actually am coming around to the Wiseman thing, because I think that he's going to start playing like 24 minutes pretty consistently, and that 3,800, that's definitely cheap enough. So, do you want to talk about FanDuel positions?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. So, what do you got for me at point guard?
All right, let me.
I'll start it off if you want. Delon Wright again. Delon Wright may become a lesser priority of the play, because I just mentioned how many points you need. He's a good example, Sheets, of the guy who we feel pretty good. Like, he's going to get 30 to 35 here, I feel like, most of the time. Does he get you 40 that often? Probably not. But I guess that's still a good enough return at 54. But on 58 on DraftKings, you get a little bit into the iffiness. But Ben Simmons will be my number 1 point guard as of right now. He's 7,900. I am completely all about it. I love Malcolm Brogdon as well. And, everybody else can have the Derek White and all that stuff. If you're going to play some of the Houston guys, which I think you're going to over here, I think you want to play a little bit of Steph Curry. If that game stays remotely close, like just for 3.5 quarters-ish, 20 points even, Steph Curry could put up 1 million against that team. There's no way they can guard him. and you might see one of those 10-3 nights kind of thing out of him at 9,400. Also, Luka's really cheap, so a loaded position overall. I like Simmons, as I mentioned before, but I think Luka, Curry are your other spend up guys. Jamal Murray's crazy cheap, but I think I would go Jamal Murray. Brogdon is a really good conversation. Brogdon much more consistently going to get there, but Murray with the higher upside. And then if you're going all the way down, it would be Sato and Delon Wright, or those would be the guys that I'd go furthest down with. I don't know that you're going to want to play Sato on a slate this size on FanDuel because of how many good options there are.
I have Satoransky, like I said, as my top value there, but I don't know if you're going to need it, like you were saying. FanDuel's just kind of like that. You just don't need to go down to 35, 3,800 all that often.
Right.
But he does rate the top point per dollar play, whatever that means. But the other guys that you mentioned are just kind of, I kind of just flipped around a little bit. Like I have, maybe just for whatever reason, I have the Derek White maybe a little higher, but nothing crazy. I have him very similar to Delon Wright. And then one guy you just didn't mention, who's just kind of like in the middle of that pack, is Drew Holiday. Is still cheap enough at 5,900. Not going to blow anybody's doors off, I don't think, but he raced to be an okay play also. But everybody else is pretty much covered.
Yeah, I agree with that, the Holiday thing. There's just a lot of good plays. That makes it a little bit tricky. I mean, even like Reggie Jackson's 4,300 and his starting could easily get you 30. He's another, but I just don't think we need to go down that far though, like what we talked about with Sato. All right, shooting guard, what do you got for me?
Well, there's Karis LeVert.
Oh, Westbrook, by the way, too, at point guard. Should have mentioned him. Sorry. So
there's Karis LeVert, and then a bunch of fishy plays. Oh, you got Paul George again, don't you?
Heater going. It's too cold in here.
Yeah, to me, this looks to be the chalk as well, unless you want to pay up for Harden or Beal or something like that. This seems to be the chalk construction for me. Would be LeVert and Paul George.
Mm-hmm.
Wiggins, I mean, feels a little dirty. So for me, it's Paul George and LeVert, and then obviously you could always pay up for Harden if you want to Beal, but the top values, I mean, for me are clearly Paul George and Karis LeVert.
Yeah, Paul George, Karis LeVert for me as well. I think Harden will be owned on this one. I'm fine with him. I don't think I prefer Giannis to Harden.
You like Levine at all over here or no?
So, yeah, I mean, it's just.
I know the other options are so much better, right? I mean,
I feel like they are, but I do like Levine a little bit. So I mean, he'll be on my list. It's just I like the other option, like you said. I like the other option. I think Wiggins is actually a really interesting option because I think that there is a pretty decent floor, and there's definitely some upside. When you just need a guy to get you 40, like at 5,400, that's not it at all a stretch, and it's a good matchup for him too. So, so I sort of like the Wiggins thing. I don't love this position as much. I think there's an outside chance Marcus Smart might be a better play than everybody's overlooking, but really it's mostly going to be LeVert and Paul George for me.
At small forward, who do you like better? Well, okay, I like Kevin Porter the best. Who do you like better at around the same price between Chris Middleton and Jalen Brown?
Jalen Brown.
Okay.
He's also going to be, I mean, the ownership difference is going to be so astounding for Jalen Brown in Jalen Brown's favor that I think Middleton ends up like extremely low owned.
That's interesting.
Jalen Brown is going to be one of the most popular plays on the slate on both sides, maybe the most popular, other than the Houston guys, excuse me.
I mean, not we used to. I mean, I guess because Jalen Brown is the exception to this, but Chris Middleton at 7,300 pretty recently was pretty chalky at 7,300.
Yeah, it's just that Jalen Brown's the same price and they're missing Kemba.
You want to pivot off of all that and play Gordon Hayward at 7,300 or no?
Not quite, but I don't think it's a terrible idea. I think you're mostly living with the Brown Porter situation, and then you're going to play. I think I would just rather play Middleton as all things being considered. I think Middleton weird because I would say that in a lot of ways Hayward, you could argue might have more upside, but I don't know. It's really, I think that Middleton probably still stands out for that. So I would go with Middleton a little bit over that. I think Larry Nance is in play at 4.9, assuming that we think he's going to get his run. We don't hear anything otherwise. But yeah, not a lot of huge decisions. I feel like really good about the top guys, and then you mentioned the Hayward pivot and then the Middleton pivot. Kenyon Martin Jr., if he gets low, it just depends on who's healthy tonight. He would be the one who I'm sort of just like questioning, because I'd be happy to go back to him at 5K, even though he struggled yesterday. I think it'll lower his ownership quite a bit.
Power forward, decent amount depends on Christian Wood being out. I would like to play Deshaun Tate again, but I don't know if I could do it with Christian Wood in. But for now, he looks like a really good play. Mm-hmm. Tony Bradley again, 3,500. I mean, that's a good play. Tice again looks pretty okay. Tobias Harris, if you want to pay up. I don't think I want to play JaVale McGee, like you said. You mentioned Marcus Morris. He's a good value also. How's the Patrick Williams been doing? I mean, I know you throw him a little bone every slate just to kind of watch for him. Has he been getting there?
Put up 40 tonight, the game before last. Certainly has like some ups. He put up 7 yesterday. He's, that's what he is.
But Giannis is obviously Giannis is the best play, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Giannis is actually kind of a priority. I don't think any of these power forwards are like huge priorities, the ones that I mentioned. Do you know what I mean? I think all of those guys have like bust pad. Tony Bradley at 3,500 though. I don't know.
Yeah, Tony Bradley and JaVale. I mean, like if you're gonna play JaVale, and you can do the double punt thing over here, which I don't mind quite as much because it does allow you to do sort of a differentiating build, and you can play the 2 minimum cost guys. Claxton, I guess you put in that same conversation, but I just prefer Morris to all those guys if I was gonna if we have no Ibaka. I agree about Tate, but Giannis is the guy you're trying to get to, in my opinion, over here, especially on FanDuel. There's just so few ways for him not to like get there. And one thing, you look at Giannis, try to find a game where he doesn't have like at least a steal in the block, and usually it's multiples of one or the other or both. He's just got even more upside over here. I really like him. I think he's the spend up of the slate you want. I do like Tatum also. Those are the guys who I'm mostly playing though.
Center for me is going to be one of 2 ways. And I usually have a third. Like normally I would say you can either pay down for James Wiseman or pay all the way up for what's his name for Jokic, or if you wanted to pivot in the middle, you could play something like Rashad Holmes or something like that. But for me, I don't even think I'm going to get to the Rashad Holmes. I think for me, it's just going to be the 2 guys I mentioned. I think it's either going to be pay down for Wiseman or pay up for Jokic.
Yeah, I sort of with you. There's a weird high upside play that hasn't shown high upside in a while that I'm going to take over here. And okay, guys, well, Miles Turner against Brooklyn. I think this is a really good matchup for Miles Turner. And I think there's a reasonable chance for the shot blocking and steal upside to be there. You have a team that turns the ball over a bunch, and he's been blocking a million shots lately. If he does anything at all offensively, you're going to get there. And Brooklyn will allow you to do things. So I think he's kind of interesting. I also think DeAndre Jordan on the other side of that game is really interesting at 4,300.
All right, sounds good. And one guy I forgot to mention at power forward, by the way, that was Lauri Markkanen.
Yeah, I like Markkanen as well. All right, I think that's pretty much it for the first look, guys. I'll be with you at 6 Eastern. Sheets, I hope you'll be with us.
Yep.
All right, great. And we're going to be bringing some golf stuff to you next. So good luck to everyone, and we'll see you at the top of the leaderboards tonight.
Yep.